Hey guys, StarCraft here, and today I'm taking a bit of a break from the Masters of the Universe stuff. Last one kind of, I won't say burnt me out, but yeah, that one took a little bit of a while to get through. So I'm figuring I'm going to do something a bit different. So instead of going through 6 issues of one series, I'm instead going to do one big book. The Superman Earth 1 graphic novel. Yep. What am I thinking? This thing's going to be just as long. But yeah, this book right here is basically going to be J. Michael Straczynski, Shane Davis, and their reinterpretation of Superman. Again! Yeah, Superman's gone through so many, but doing this in this Earth's One thing, its own little self-contained graphic novel format, not a bad idea. And it's a good start. You start to, and it starts giving up some interesting ideas, and it gets things going for what would be a good trilogy of graphic novels. Now, I'm going to be reviewing a bunch of these as well. I know some people really want to review it, so I figured, hey, I got a ball, why don't I do it? So, yep, let's dive right in. Before we going in, yes, I want to make clear, this is yet another origin of Superman, and there have been so many over the past, actually not that long even. You've already had the original origin and any sub-variations during the pre-crisis. You had the post-crisis, and that one lasted a good while until you finally got Mark Waid's Birthright, which did become the official origin for a very short while. Then you had Secret Origins. Then you had this particular story, Earth 1. And then you even had Grant Morrison with the New 52, and so on and so forth. And yeah, they've gone through so many, but I would say this one marks up there with a good number with them all. And because each one does their own thing, each one works, and this one really works, if you ask me. Especially when going into it, there were so many people saying, oh, it's going to suck, oh, this and that. And again, I'll get more into it if we go right in. So yeah, starting with the cover, this caused a bit of a stir because it made everyone think, oh, they're going with the Twilight style. Emo Superman with glowing red eyes. But I think it looks kind of badass. It shows that he's a guy like, hey, yeah, don't mess with me. And it shows what a more modern take on Superman kind of would be like, you know, given what we're going to see in here. And yeah, it kind of feels like it's a little moody, but who cares? I think it's still an awesome looking cover. But yeah, it opens up with Superman taking a train to Metropolis instead of flying. Why? Because he just wants to take it in. He needs time to think. Even though he's had years to think, but it's different once you actually do it. It actually feels real. Clark then gets in a new apartment, at least paying at least a month's rent, and he's hoping to, and the landlord is willing enough to give him an opportunity. And yeah, basically, Clark is a little he doesn't know what he's going to do at the moment. He just graduated from junior college, and he's going to figure things out. She gives him some advice, basically make it clear, yeah, be careful. Try and make a decision and watch it on the dark side of town. Sure enough, though, as he's walking through, he goes through the dark side of town, and a mugger tries to attack him. He shoots his heat vision off at him in a blinding white flash that basically distracts the guy, and he leaves. We then cut to a football tryout, as when one coach has basically asking like, Clark Kent, over here, showing how small Clark is among the other players. And I love how the coach is. It doesn't make sense. Pender's my best scout. Says you're the best he's seen. He might as well have sent me a pine needle. Says here you play offense, defense, receiver, safety, tackle, quarterback, halfback, linebacker. Never took him for a drinking man before. Of course, Clark basically says, hey, let's check it out. What do you got to lose? And he signed the waivers. So basically, Clark's just showing how great he is. Coach puts him through everything, and Clark is showing off everything he's able to do to the point where basically, yeah, and they're telling him, yeah, leave it blank. Let's pay him whatever he wants. And Clark basically puts that on hold. He then goes to, let's just say it, it's basically Tony Stark, a rich guy, scientist guy, who basically tells him, you know what, I don't normally meet people like this, and really I shouldn't. And yeah, you might be good, but we only take the best. Then Clark asks about an equation they've been working on, which is basically working in 2 years trying to find how to derive electricity from salt water. And Clark just simply writes down an equation, gives it to him, tells him, just give it to them and I'll leave happily. Turns out, he filled in the code. It was exactly what they wanted. And Tony Stark, again, just going with that, is basically saying, don't move, don't do anything. And we basically find out Clark has been getting all these great offers from all these different places. And yet, none of them's making him happy. And he wants to do this all to make sure that his mom can have a great living. And she basically says, I got my place, my retirement, my memories of your father. You basically this time, make something for yourself. Alright? And that, yeah, him trying to do something for himself is not being selfish. It's just how the future gets built. So, move on with your life. Just do something, anything. And while Clark is thinking about that, he still continues to try other things. And, okay, this can get a little ridiculous because it feels like, wait, Clark does all this stuff and yet people are going to still see him as an ordinary guy? And he uses his actual name, so yeah. So, Clark then decides, okay, I'll give this shot at, when he sees the Daily Planet, he's like, I'll give that a shot. Goes and, okay, one thing I love about JMS's handling of Perry, both here and during his brief stint on Superman is how he handled Perry and Perry White. Especially when he's like, Debbie, do you have Kent's resume? It's on your desk. It's on my desk. So is the Lusitania, the Titanic, Amelia Earhart's plane, and everything else that's gone missing the last 100 years. She just walks in, lifts it up, and walks out. I never killed, except with her gone, I'd never find the number for the coroner's office, and her body would be left rot wherever it landed. Okay, a bit dark, but yeah, it's still kind of funny. And Perry starts showing him around the office, explaining everything, and giving him the main gist of it. And again, you could definitely tell that GMS is drawing from his time working in newspapers. We then see Lois Lane, who Shane Davis, the artist, who I might add does a great job here, is openly admitted she's based off of a Jennifer Carpenter, aka Dexter's sister from Dexter. And it can get a little annoying if you know that, but if you don't, she looks like a great Lois. Then we also meet James Olsen, who, one, is definitely a lot older, and two, again, playing up with something that JMS said, he's playing up more with instead of being the cub reporter or the simple photographer, he's like a real photographer. Completely out of his damn mind. Actually going into the undercarriage while a car on fire goes right over him, and he uploads photos that constantly crash the net, things like that. It's really fun. And one other thing I like is that Perry just gives it to Clark straight. Most people don't stick around here for the long haul. Most of them come in, get some stuff on their resume, and go on somewhere else, which is understandable. They're always rotating. And yeah, Clark basically, shakes his hand, leaves, and drops the resume like, nah, just another one. Then we get this beautiful shot of him just slowly taking to the air until he's out in space. And we get a flashback then of Clark as a child being told about his parents, saying, okay, Clark does come up a little off-putting here. He's just like, show me. But as a kid, as we see him here, yeah, he feels a bit detached and makes a bit of sense. And then we get another flashback as his parents are out in the mountains far away from Kansas. A spacecraft crashes down, going through the mountains. They make their way there, and when they do, they find in the smashed ship, find a young Kal-El, pick him up, and get out of there before any black copters show up, grabbing a chunk of the ship as well as they did. And yeah, but having it outside of Kansas instead actually makes more sense, especially when you take into account that, well, yeah, the black choppers would show up, and if it landed in the cornfields, yeah, no chance at all that they would just let it by. So it makes a lot more the way they did that here. And okay, looks like they're going with the pre-crisis route of he was already super strong the moment he landed on Earth as he twists their tire iron. So yeah, they decided to have it be that Martha's sister from Chicago, the one they never hear from, she sent her kid her kid to him to raise. And yeah, it's not like she's around to say otherwise. And basically, they have it be that's what it is. He's been and they've been raising him under that guise. And Jonathan reveals he took to the metal to some friend of his and made it clear it's not from this world. You're not from Earth. We didn't just see how Clark is again. He's been trying to keep himself contained as a kid, even being called a freak, but not doing anything about it. He then, in the present day, flies back home and sees his father's grave. Yep, not a continuity where Jonathan's dead. And he's just going on mentioning how, yeah, I got a good job that can help Mama. I could be happy. He's always been alone. But then, and if he exposes himself to the world, if he shows what he could do, he'll always be on the run. He doesn't know what to do. He wants to be able to help. And yeah, he'll have to be all alone. And he doesn't want to disappoint Jonathan. And he wishes he was here to help him out. But yeah, he just wonders like, what do I do? We then cut to a military base as Major Sandra Lee, an original character, is entering a facility, which we find out is where they house the remains of Clark's ship, from all the way back in. And it turns out, basically, they find out how stuff like the Rosetta Stone was translated, the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered and are still being translated. And basically, he's pointing out how, with everything they have to do with there, 20 years is nothing by comparison. And basically trying to make it clear to others, like, why it's taking so long and everything. I kind of like that. We see from the military's point of view what's going on. And Major Lee is an endearing character. You get it. She wants to see stuff done and everything, and is always trying to find out what the answer is. We then find out that at one point Clark's room is on fire. Something has set it off. He then flies, zooms in ahead of everyone, gets his suit, gets the bit of metal, and flies out of there, wondering what the hell is going on. It's made clear that what set it off was his. It looks like it was a piece of metal that set the fire, that somehow ignited everything. All because Major Lee reactivated. It looks like. And that all of a sudden sends a spark into Clark that causes him to crash, and with all but his costume and the metal. At the same time, Major Lee gets word and the metal has been activated somewhere over in the USA. All of a sudden, we get a giant spaceship in the air as military and jets fly in to try and take care of it, only to get shot down. And people are panicking, wondering what the hell's going on. Lois and Jimmy are ready to go on out there, to tell where there's a story. They're going to find out. And yeah, basically then while Lois is like, get down, Jimmy's just taking photos, even to the point where she's saying, news photographers, there'll be the death of me yet. And while Clark is knocked out, he then starts to get visioned of what happened with his parents. His parents put him on a ship. He ends up then rocketing out as the memory starts to fade and the ship takes off. He wakes up wondering, what the heck was that? Meanwhile, more military might comes in to fight on the ship, but it's doing no good as they're blasting it. More mechs showing up. Soon then, they get a message from a alien, the commander of the species, Tyrell, telling them there is one among you who doesn't belong. We just want him for us, and we don't need everyone to die. So, but if it has to, I will do that. We then see Major Lee being told that whatever's happening with the ship is causing it to be patched up, fixing itself. And while this is going, Clark's looking down at all the carnage, wondering what's going on. As he looks at the costume, he then flies off, zooms around, grabs a piece from one of the robots, takes it to the scientist guy and tells him, you got to do something. I got a piece of the metal from it. If you use your resources, we can find any way to analyze it and stop it. Unfortunately, the guy's like, not my department, as he starts to leave. Clark then, realizing they're not going to help. Clark then gets another flashback to a talk he had with his father, basically saying, they're talking about how they built the outfit. And they even admit it was pretty hard unraveling the threads of the blanket that he came in, but it needed to be done, and it looks like it'll be a good suit. And then we cut back to the present day again, more of Jimmy taking photos, Tyrell basically saying how monitoring the battle and saw that they did not run. And basically, he's ready to do something to Jimmy. And what does Clark do? He's just balling up his fist. Well, Jimmy's just not running. He doesn't care. Then a streak flies by. Again, it's Clark. But it was just enough to register him. And Tyrell rail and says, "At last, now we step forward into the light." Clark then heads back to the costume as he looks down. Then we find, and he talks with his parents, and we find out about wants to wear a mask. If he wears the mask, it's what he's going to have to wear for the rest of his life. And then he asks, "What about the S?" And Martha said it was about how you're their son, the son of whatever world they're from, the son of Earth, and her son. To which Jonathan says, "Too vague, too fuzzy, too cute." And then points out his cousin was in advertising. You gotta have a symbol. And basically saying, "You're not just different from every other man, Clark. You're more powerful than another man. You're unique in all the world. Extraordinary. Not just any man, and more than just a man. A Superman." And yep, Johnson's the one who named him in this continuity. Kind of like how Post-Crisis did the same thing. As we see him in the costume, and I like it. It's a really good design. He then starts to kick all the robots' asses. And then we find Tyrell. He wants the last Kryptonian dead. And Clark is just zooming around, taking apart all the ships. And Tyrell tells him, "Send word to our associate that the job they begun will shortly be completed." Meaning someone sent him on this journey. As he then backhands on Superman, sending him flying. Superman flies back in and decks Tyrell. And Tyrell basically is disappointed, hoping that Superman would know a little bit of what's going on, but clearly not. And then he just continues on just spouting. Superman not even get a word in, pointing out how you are from the last son of a dead world, a murder world that was assassinated. He then explains how the two worlds were basically sister planets, always rotating in proximity. And every time they would be on, they started to reach a great, limited, greatness in technology, their planets would come in close, and then they would go to quick war. All the while, this kept them from not being able to expand and to go beyond their world at all. Because every time they do, the other would come in and they would reach to a stalemate. Then it was explained how someone came before them, some mysterious figure, who told them that I will give you the means of destroying everything, so long as you make sure not one Kryptonian leaves. And basically, they started using that means to start causing Krypton to fall up and to destabilize. But it would be done in a way that would not be noticed immediately, except for Jor-El, who was able to cobble together the ship up and send Superman off. And basically explains, "Here you are. And now that we found you, we're going to finish it off. What the person who made the deal with us and asked for." To which all Clark says is, "As a kid reading adventure stories, I always cringe at the part where the bad guy stopped on everything he was doing in order to tell the good guy his plans." To which Tyrell laughs it off, saying, "You're right. Doesn't make much sense. Unless, of course, I'm the good guy and you're the bad guy, or this was just a distraction." And it was, as drills are now being dug in all around the world. And all they're going to do is, basically, they're going to be digging down to the Earth's core. We also find that Tyrell has multiple ways of dealing with him. He knows about the weaknesses, at least to the powers on the different suns. They're from the same solar system, after all. And then he then starts bragging about how, yes, our ship is powerful. Maybe not as powerful as Kryptonian metals, but then he gets cut off. And then they decide to use this weapon that in solar red energy that will keep him pinned down. All the while then, and Superman once again seeks back to his father, giving him a bit more advice. We then see Jimmy try to go in, try to help him, but he can't. He almost was crushed beneath it. But then Lois gets an idea. She sees a truck nearby. She then commandeers it, drives in, as it starts to take the brunt of the damage. A chain dangling in the back. Superman wisely grabs it and is dragged out of there by Lois. And once he's back up to full strength. And he and Tyrell go in for another fight as they can continue to trade blows, as Superman just doesn't hold back at all. Suddenly then, the Kryptonian ship comes to life and flies off, trying to find Superman. And once they do, it tackles Tyrell, knocking him aside, and then Superman looks at the ship and realizes it is his ship, and it will answer to him. And then he remembers what Tyrell said, that Kryptonian metal is stronger than their ship's metal. And so he gets into the ship and then flies around, punching holes into everything. Then it leads into them on board the ship as it's ready to destabilize. Red starlight is starting to seep in, as now it's on an even fight, and he starts just wailing into Tyrell, knocking him around until a bunch of debris lands on him, pinning him down. Tyrell then says others will come and finish this, to which Superman says, maybe so, maybe they will come, but not today. And as he leaves, Tyrell laughs, saying he still doesn't know. Superman then starts falling from the blast, but the yellow sun allows him to be able to fly again as he takes off. We then cut back to Major Lee as they're wondering what's going on and who is this guy? What is going on? What is his agenda? His aim seems to correspond with the time we discovered the ship, etc., etc. But she wants him found. We then find Tony Stark basically running up to him saying, can you believe it? Look, we gotta talk. We got so much we could do about it. And basically when Clark even says, like, and how can you talk about money in the middle of all this? I mean, look at all the people suffering. Basically, Stark is like, again, I'm just calling him Stark because it's funny, say, yeah, real shame, but it's not really my problem. To which then Superman just simply says, not my department, as he leaves. He then decides that he realizes during all this, Lois and Jimmy did what they could to help. They did it to help and did all the stuff with the news story because it was what they needed to be done. So we see Clark find some new outfits, put it all on, and basically he develops his Clark Kent disguise. We then cut back to Jimmy and Lois, and they're talking to Perry about everything that happened, and shows off Jimmy got the photo. A photo of Superman. No one else did, and not that clear. And Perry is over the moon because we find out earlier that the planet has not been doing very well. But now, with that photo, they can be able to make sure no one else can get it. They're going to have exclusive rights to it. No, they're going to come begging for the images. But now they need a name for them. And then Clark comes in with an interview, basically saying he called Superman and I interviewed him an hour ago. I took inspiration from what you said, etc., etc. And I love how Perry basically makes it clear, if a single word of what you write is bogus, if you make any of it up, I will eat you alive. And then we just see that Lois, she's questioning it. She doesn't get it at all. It's just like, the last time Perry said anything encouraging, a guy was ready to jump off the building, and all Perry told him was, jump! I need a story for page 2. Good Lord, if that was true, really, Perry? They even point out, you got a good memory for quotes, but I didn't see you. And again, she just doesn't buy it. She finds it very convenient. Jimmy knows things like, hey, he's a cool guy. We didn't find out, oh yeah, and the Daily Planet is constantly selling out. People are just they want to know who this is. People are just confused, questioning. And I love how we see with Perry, the Metropolis Times wants permission to use some of our pictures. No. CNN, MSNBC, ABC. No. The Metro News Daily can kiss my ass for in general public. And I do like it how, with some exceptions, the first of which being Dan DiDio, actually gives I'm grateful and glad he was here. He saved the world. We then see so many other people, they are unsure. They don't know. And it's like, yeah, I love how Major Lee's like, no comment. But yeah, some people are like, maybe. I don't trust him. Again, showing how everything would be like in the real world. We didn't cut to the Arctic as these guys are just talking about how there's nothing to do at all. But we were in the background, if they would just bother to turn around, Superman uses his heat vision to bury a hole into the ice. And basically that's where he leaves the ship. So he can be able to talk to it and show him what he can. We then cut to the rooftop of the Daily Planet, where Jimmy and Lois are just talking about what's going on, how things have changed, and then we see Superman flying off as we end our story. But not the book. For you see, we actually get the interview that he had with and that Clark had with Superman. And what I like about this is that throughout this all, he actually treats it like a real interview. JMS writes it out like an actual interviewer would, but he writes it in a way that shows that Clark, he makes a few mistakes. There are a few things here that are like, eh. But at the same time, you can see, though, like, yeah, very well written, just not perfect. He basically came off imperfect. We even get some other stuff, like from Lois's story, her perspective, etc. And again, I really like it. It just shows how things played out, how things went, and it shows what the newspaper looked like. We even didn't get a sketchbook of all the designs and everything, and yeah, that's basically Earth 1 Superman. Very well done, very good. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for the next ones that are coming out. There's more to it, like who put the hit out on Krypton, things like that, that we will eventually get answered, but not right now. And yeah, it's a nice setup. There's a lot of drastic changes, but still not that drastic enough. There's always a no-shot. You have lore, and then you have continuity. In this case, the lore is all consistent. All the characters are there. But then you have how continuity, or I forget what the other term is, but you have that other type of handling of a character that is taking its own thing, but still staying true to the spirit. And that's what I like most about this. And it shows that JMS really got Superman. He really did, and he redefined him for a new age. So, that's what I gotta say here. Oh, and one other thing to add. Once again, Shane Davis's art is very good. Some people have always said it's stilted and all that. I don't see it like that. I always look at it as he does it very detailed. It gives a bit of that cinematic feel that some people go for. But at the same time, though, he really does action well. He does great character designs. His backgrounds and layouts are incredible. There is at least one time, though, I will openly acknowledge, where, see that woman right there during the little crowd shot? Yeah, I remember that distinctly from the Batman Under the Red Hood, during that whole trade paperback, the annual that explained everything. Talia makes the exact same pose. So clearly he uses some references that he will reuse again, but for the most part, it's still very good, and we would at least have him for Volume 2 before other commitments would keep him away from Volume 3. But yeah, for the 2 times we have him, it is phenomenal, and I can't wait till we get back to this again. So that was Superman Earth 1, and like I said, he got things off to a good start. Bit slow, but for a self-contained graphic novel, it still told a story done in one. Came up with an interesting idea about Krypton not being destroyed by natural causes, but being murdered. Yeah, Bendis didn't come up with that first, but then again, neither did JMS. As I said in the review, there's other cases where that's been done. But still, the way it's handled here is having to be a rival planet. Not that bad idea. Wish they didn't look as much like Lobo. But, like I said before, tomorrow I'm going to be going over in release order. So next one will be, if I get to it, will be Batman Earth 1. So catch you all later.